everyone. I apologize in advance for the chirping bird. He's ornery and I can't move him tonight. So we're going to talk about a lease option and a lease purchase. Nobody really does a lease option anymore, but you should know what they are. Well, some people do, I guess. A lease option is basically a rent to own. You rent the home for a while, and then at the end of a certain period of time, you have the option to buy. A lease purchase is the same concept, and that's what we're going to talk about. The focus is less on the rental and more on the purchase of the home. So at the beginning of the period, you write a contract before you even lease the property. And then at the end of a certain period of time, you're going to close on it. You put earnest money down, and it's non-refundable. So maybe you write it as an $8,000 non-refundable earnest, and that covers a deposit and everything. So at the end of the 12 months, if you don't close, you are risking that money. So as a buyer, you need to know the risk that you're taking here, and you need to fully understand it. If you don't close on the property, just like any other earnest money, you don't get it back. And in fact, there are less contingencies. You can't write it contingent on getting a loan with the lease. I mean, you could, but nobody usually would accept that. So if you're writing a check out, kiss it goodbye. Hopefully it'll go toward the purchase of your home, but it's not going to come back to your hand. I actually wrote one of these one time for myself. I was going to purchase something this way, and I got cancer. So things happen within that year time period, and they're terrible sometimes, and you have to understand that even if that does happen, you're risking it. So I never told the seller that I had cancer. I probably could have made a big long explanation and asked and begged for him to go ahead and sell it, but instead, since I realized that he was taking a risk too, I went ahead and obviously didn't ask for that. That probably would have seemed very entitled for me to do that. So I just walked away from it, and that's why I don't necessarily recommend these. At the end of the day, a lot of times the sellers are upset because they didn't get to sell their home. The buyers are upset because they lost money and had to walk away. Not very many of them go to that 12-month period, but sometimes in a pinch they can be an option. So if you are going to buy one this way, make sure to make it assignable. Watch the video on how to assign a contract. Make sure to make the contract assignable, just in case you get to hear. Sometimes it can give you more options. Always check the laws in your state. Always check the laws in your state. Don't just listen to what I have to say. This is what I might do in my state. You might not do them in yours. Do your due diligence. Make sure that it's going to work out for you before you even write the contract. Just don't always take my word for it, because it is different here. So during that period, that 12-month period, you are renting the property. So you, or whoever is renting it, maybe you're renting it for $1,200 a month. For the seller, maybe it's been sitting on the market for a while. Maybe it's a good deal for them. If you're buying this way, it can be a good deal for you, because let's assume that it's going to appreciate over time. If you wrote the contract as a $200,000 purchase because that's what the house is worth at the time, and then you close in 12 months and suddenly it's worth $240,000, now you have equity in the home before you even close on it, and you have a contract locked in at this price. Which is why if it's assignable, you can assign it to somebody else if you can't close. I've done this before too, where I've assigned it to someone else on a lease purchase. Why buy it that way? Maybe you have other things. Maybe you aren't supposed to be spending your money on something right now. Maybe you're not supposed to have another loan, and you don't want this loan right away. You have it in 12 months instead. Maybe you can't find private financing right now and you want to give yourself time to find that financing. There could be all kinds of reasons why you do it this way. Watch the video on lending. Maybe that'll help. Maybe you decide that this is a better way to go for right now until you can get it financed. But for whatever reason, if you do this, just remember that there is a risk. As a seller, it could also be a good opportunity for you too. If you figure that maybe your house has been sitting on the market for a long time, the one thing that could increase traffic to your property is by listing it as a lease purchase. If you open up that opportunity, I mean, maybe you've paid a mortgage on it for 4 months, and all of a sudden you say, hey, you know what, I'm willing to do a lease purchase. But the thing that you'll have to know is that you're selling it now at a price. I mean, you're going to actually be selling the property in 12 months, and that value is going to go up, and you're kind of losing out on that equity. So it's not always the best thing for a seller either. Again, I don't necessarily recommend doing this, but you should always know what they are when you hear people talking about them. Know the difference between a lease option. The lease option focuses on the rental, and then you have the option to buy afterwards. The lease purchase says right now that, hey, in this period of time, I am going to buy. You're making a commitment to buy, and you're leasing the property during that time. So advantages as a buyer, you have instant equity. Well, not instant equity, but by the time you close in 12 months, you're going to have equity in it. Disadvantages, you're risking that money. Advantages to the seller are, if it's been sitting a long time, it opens it up to a bigger market. There are a lot of people out there who want to buy lease purchases. Not everybody does them anymore. My broker just made it clear that we're not going to do them anymore, just because we've seen some upset people at the end of those periods of time. We want to help people. We say, hey, here's a great way to help somebody out. They can do this lease purchase now. And then if it doesn't turn out at the end of the day, I mean, we feel bad about that. So anyway, that just opens up a new option for you. Remember, always make it assignable. Remember, always check the laws in your state and do your due diligence. And we'll see you next time.